for showing your interest in this training program. Myself, Nilesh More. I am working as a Salesforce developer in Kelas TGS. I'm having 5+ years of experience in Salesforce industry and same in the IT industry. So, thanks, Manu. So, from today onwards, I will be starting with the LWC. First of all, we will be starting from the JavaScript basics, in which today we will be going to cover some JavaScript basics, and then tomorrow onwards we will be starting with the actual LWC topics. Okay, so let me share my screen. Yeah, so we all know that before LWC, Aura was there, right? And now we can play with Aura as well as LWC, right? We can communicate in between these two, right? So the basics, right? LWC in LWC, right? In LWC, if we compare LWC and Aura, there is a difference of the syntaxial changes are there, means syntaxial differences are there, and LWC, which is following the web standards, like web browser standards, they're using JavaScript, standard JavaScript, so it's lightweight and Aura components, so it loads smoothly your screen and load your components in smart time, right? So let's get started with this LWC basics or JavaScript basic first of all. So you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So yeah. So first of all, we'll see how do we add console statements, right? If you want to debug, how we can add the debug statement in LWC or JavaScript. Later this session, we'll start with the basic, right? How do we create LWC component? How naming conventions will be done, and how you can do these things in VS Code. For now, just focus on the basics, JavaScript basics. Okay. So what I did is I have created just this LWC component, JS fundamentals -3. Okay. So this is the HTML file, which is empty, and the JavaScript file in which I have just quoted this console.log JavaScript fundamentals. Okay. So what I did is I have already logged into my Salesforce org, and I just embedded this JS fundamental components here in the home tab. Okay, here in the right side. So if we want to see debug logs, right, what we can do is either we can right click and inspect it, or you can just click F12 to see these logs, right? So what I'll do is I'll just refresh this page, because this connected callback, right? The method, which is nothing but the init method, which is very similar to init method in the Aura. So whatever things are here will get loaded, or will get pop up on the component load on this page. So this console, right? This is the console where we can see our logs, and we can track, we can debug our changes. So you guys can see the statement JS fundamentals, right? Which is nothing but we have put it there in our console log. If you click on the right side right here, it will take you to this JS file and it will show you where the statement is, from where the statement is getting printed, right? So from you guys can see this JavaScript JS fundamentals, which is a very simple JS statement. Okay. So if I want to print some errors, right? Error message. How do we do that? Console dot error. And what I'll do is I'll simply right click and deploy the source. I'm going to talk about this comments later in the later session. Okay. So to get this loaded, what I'll do is I'll just refresh this page, Control R, and I'll keep this open, keep this console open. So you guys can see here, right? On the left side, I just selected the one error, and you guys can see this is the error message that we are printing from here, right? From the JS file, console.error. This is the error message. This is one of the kind of console statement, and the previous one, the JS fundamentals, right? This JS fundamental is a simple console statement. This is the error console statement, and next one is if you want to display warning, right? If you want to print as a warning message in your console logs, what we can do is console dot one. We can use one method, and we can simply print it. This is warning message. And I'll simply deploy these changes, and I'll come back to my screen, come back to Salesforce, and I'll just refresh this page. Where is that? Just ignore these messages. So you guys can see here, right? JS fundamental, which is the simple console statement. This one is the error console statement. This one is the warning. Correct. So this is how we can add console statement in your JavaScript code or in JS file. Let me try one more. Info was there, right? So let's try with info and see. This is info message, and just push this, change this. I'll go back and I'll refresh it again. So here on the left side, let me click on this, and you guys can see this, right? The info will display in the simple format, similar to the JS fundamentals, so like a simple console statement. But if you see this error message, like a console error statement, you guys can see it in the red, right? Red font, and the warning, which we can see. Where is that? Yeah, this is the warning message. If you click here on the right side, it will take you to that particular statement, right, in your JS file. So, so this is how we can add simple console statements, right? Add console statement to debug our logic or debug our code in JavaScript. Now, how we can add comments? As we know, in Apex, it's very similar to the Apex. Like for multi-line comments, we can use slash backward slash star and star backward slash. And for the single line comment, we can simply put double slash. So how do we do that? I'll come back to this JS, right? JS file. And I'll simply I'll just put it this single line comment, and I'll just deploy this. So why we are going through this basics, right? So we are all type of audience, like a beginner in the LWC and beginner, maybe they can be beginner in the JavaScript as well. So JavaScript is mandatory to LWC. So that's why we are just starting with the basics, so they can, pick up on the LWC, actual LWC topics. So I just commented this. I added this comment, single line comment with this backslashes, and I'll just refresh this page. See, we don't see any error message, right? Because we commented this error console error statement, right? So that's why it's not showing here in these error messages. Or if you scroll up, you can see only the JavaScript fundamentals. This is one message and information message. The error message got commented, and that's why it's not printing there. Now, how do we put a multi-line comment? So you just need to do whatever lines or whatever piece of code you need to comment, right? So you can just put it like this slash and star, and again end with this star and slash. Again, I'm saving my code, and I'll simply deploy it. I'll come back and I'll just refresh this. So you guys can see this, only this JS fundamentals log is getting displayed over here, but no other statement, because we have commented it by using the single line comment and multi-line comment. Okay, so this is how we can add comments in a JavaScript. Now, declaring variables. How do we declare variables in JavaScript? So we have different types of different ways to declare the variables in JavaScript, like a global, local, and constant. So first of all, let's talk about the global. What is global? I'll go back to JavaScript file, and what I'll do is I'll simply I'll just use var. What I'm doing is I'm taking one simple variable var str, and I'm just printing it over here. Str. Okay, I'll save this code and okay. So I'll just deploy this and let's see if it is coming or not, and then remove it. You can see this statement here, str, this is string. So now what I'll do is I'll take this simple for loop, okay, and I'll show you how this global works here. Okay, what I'm doing here is I have taken one for loop here, right, which is very kind of similar to the Apex for loop. Like I'm taking one where I equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, and into that I'm just printing this console.log, and I'm just having I there. I'm just printing I deployed it, and let me refresh it. So if you guys see here, right, this is our str string statement, and below that this is the for loop where printing up to 0 to 9, as we have taken this I equal to 0. But what I'll do is console.log, and I'll print just simply I. Okay, or what I'll do is j equal to 10. I'll simply deploy it, and I'll just refresh it. Okay. So if you guys can see, what we did is I have just taken one for loop, and into that for loop I have taken one variable, right, j, and I just set value as 10 into that. Still, I'm able to access that j out of this loop, right, out of this piece of code, and also again where we are declaring over here. Still, we are able to access this here, right? So this is how where works. So this is the scope of this, we can say scope of this variable, or if we declare any variable with where keyword, it becomes global. So from where we are declaring it, right, let's say I'm declaring j here, right, if I try to print this j above this, right, you will not see, either it will show you it's undefined or something else, because the scope of the variable in JavaScript, it starts like similar to Apex. below that, right? It will be available to you from the initialization of it. So I'll just refresh it. I'll show you. So you guys can see this is undefined, and where this statement is above the declaration of J, right? And it's also printing here outside this loop as well, because this var is declared over here. So your var keyword specifies this particular variable is declared as a global. Next, let. Okay, what I'll do is, let's see. Okay, so what I'll do is, copying this. I'm just commenting this as it's not needed, right? And instead where I'll just make it let. I will just take this out, and what I'll do is I'll print here inside loop. Outside loop. I'll simply right click and deploy the source to work. It's saved now. Let me go back to the screen. So you guys can see these are the statement like J's fundamentals inside loop 0 to 9, as we have set up I equal to 0 and I is less than 10, right? So what it's doing is error during the LWC component connect phase, size not defined. So what we did is we have taken this for loop, right? And in the, we have taken this I here, right? I equal to 0. But what we are doing here is outside this for loop, we are trying to access this I, right? So which is declare with the let keyword, right? But what we will do is the scope of the what's happening here is the scope of this I becomes limited to this loop only, this block only. So let is nothing but your local variable, we can say, which will be accessible within this particular block, right? And that's why it's not getting printed over here like line number 20 on the line number 25. But if we want to check it, cross verify it, what I'll do is I'll simply declare it over here, or I can just okay. So what I did is I just take the declaration of this variable here, right? I have declared this variable here, and I'm just using that I to iterate over this loop, and we have also console statement outside this loop. Let me refresh it. See, if you guys can see, it's coming into the outside the loop as well, right? So if you guys can see, this is the outside loop. It's also getting printed over here, right? But if we take this out, so scope of this variable becomes to only the specific loop. So let will work your as your local variable, okay? And where will be your global variable? Wherever you declare this variable, it will be accessible below that in the whole code, in the whole JavaScript, okay? Now, the third one, the third type is the constant. So once you declare this, you won't be able to modify it. What I'll do is I'll simply take this statement. I'll go back to this screen. What I'll do is I'm just commenting this, okay? Now, constant we can declare by using this const keyword here in the JavaScript, okay? So what I did is I have taken this is the constant variable, and what I'll do is console.log. We'll just print it here, and again what I'll do is I'll try to change the value of this constant from 10 to 20, and again what we'll do is we'll just print this variable here, and let's see. I'll simply deploy it, and let's see how this behaves. So you guys can see, right, assignment to the constant variable. So this is what it means. We cannot change the value of constant variable in JavaScript, right? Once we assign value, we cannot modify that value of this variable. But that's why it's giving this error. What I'll do is I'll simply comment this and deploy this. It's a very simple statement, right? We have just taken this constant variable. This is the constant, and we are just assigning 10 to this variable. And what we're doing here is we tried to modify this 10 from 10 to 20 of this constant variable and try to print here, and we got this error, right? So so you guys can see the console statement here, right? Where is that? Yeah, so this is the constant 10. So if we try to modify it, it will throw you an exception, like you cannot modify value of this constant variable, right? Once you declare it, that's it. So these are the declaration. These are different ways to declare variables in JavaScript. Like you can use var, let, and constant. So where var is working as a global, let is working as a local variable, and constant is a static or non-updatable variable, right? Now, You guys are you guys are getting right. Okay. Next, data types. So similarly, we are declaring the variables in the apex, right? Using the string like constant, boolean, integer, double, decimal, float, whatever it is. Similar thing we have, but the ways are different in JS and Apex. So let's see how do we play with this data type in JavaScript. What I'll do is I'm just checking the statement here. So till now, you guys can see here we haven't taken any data type like string, boolean, and like integer, double. These kind of things we haven't referred yet, right? So how do we handle, how JavaScript handle this, right? So let me comment this part. Okay, I have taken one variable. Okay, employee name, emp name Nilesh, and console.log. So what happens is, if you guys can see from the beginning, we use some console statement. We use var str, we print it, we assign string to this str variable. We taken var I, right, variable I, where we, we assign 0 to this I. We taken j variable where we assign 10 to this variable. Now what we're doing is constant. I'll explain you what I'm doing here. I'll just show you first of all, then emp number, constant. I'm just taking constant for now. Console.log emph. Const. Exist. What was there? I'm just checking reference. Const. I'm just taking the statement. Okay, I'm just printing it forget about, just ignore this duplicate h, just taking for references. So if you guys can see, I'm just using constant keyword to declare these variables, but on the right side, I'm assigning different value to these variables, right? Different types of values. If you compare these values in Apex, right? This is the string which I have assigned to this employee name. This is the integer or whatever it is. I have just assigned to this employee number. Again, integer to this. Okay, you can see this Boolean variable, right? This is the true, and I have just assigned to this. I'm just printing it. Don't need to print it, but let's see. Is exist. Okay. Then is exist. I'm just copying it. I'll deploy the source. So these are what JavaScript do is whatever value you have to assign to that variable, either it is string or integer, you just assign that value. You just declare the variable and assign that value. JavaScript will take care of data type. So meaning explicitly we don't need to define or we don't need to mention data type here in JavaScript. Like Apex. In Apex, we what we do is exist. Boolean is exist equal to true or false. String employee name equal to Nilesh. But here in the JavaScript, we don't need to mention the data type. You just use the keyword, what kind of scope you need to specify to this particular variable, and mention or assign your values of any data type. So this variable or JavaScript will take care of it and it will handle it. And you can play with these variables. So as we have deployed it, let me print it. See, this was the simple simple one. This is the constant employee name, which is again string. Employee number, this age exists true, pay, age is undefined. These are also, we can say, types of variables, data types we can say is null and undefined, right? So what we will do is, let me show you one thing. Let me try it first. We can do it. Console.log and in if first of all we see so here, if you guys can see, we have declared this is exist variable, right? Like a Boolean variable, and this is the statement which is getting print from this if condition, right? If is exist, we used a boolean, right? We set true here, and what we are doing here is we are just checking if is exist, then print this else. So I just want to show you that JavaScript is taking care of it, taking care of data types. We don't need to explicitly mention it. One more thing, JavaScript is case sensitive. Here in the LWC, whatever things you are doing at the backend, the same if you want to refer this variable on the UI side, new HTML file, I'll show you that. You need to mention your variable name as it is. So false. Okay. Just go back and let's see. See in else. So what we do is we assign the false to is exist, and here we are checking the condition if is exist equal to true. Then go here, if else print this. So the reason why I'm showing you guys this explicitly, we don't need to mention anything. That's it. You just assign the value to these variables, and JavaScript will take care of it. Now let's play with some string functions. I'm just commenting this for now. So I'm just taking one variable, constant variable greetings, and assigning this string to this variable, right? And what I want to do is like as we know, right? Every type has some functions like Apex. In Apex, we have string class, right? In string, we have lots of methods there, which we can use those methods to build our logic. So similarly here also we have methods. We have lots of methods which we can use to play with it or to build our logic. So what I'll do is console.log. So greeting length here. How do we print it? You can just simply put it greeting dot length is, and you can simply deploy it, and let's see. Again, I'm mentioning why we are going through these basics, right? Like data types and all things, right? How many ways we can declare. So these are the just JavaScript basics, which will help us to explore LWC, right? LWC topics, and we can play with it. See, this is the statement. It's a printing this console.log and greetings.length. So if you see here, right, so it's just printing the length of how much characters are there in this greetings. If you see, the 36 is selected, right, from this line number. So I have just selected this. So all these are 36 characters. So that's why we are getting the length of this string. So we can use string.length function or greetings.length variable name.length to print the length of this string or variable. Next thing. What I want to do is I want to print it. So this is the method which will print this statement in uppercase. So we got these two uppercase method which will print the statement in the uppercase. I'll just deploy this and I'll just refresh this page. Okay. If you guys can see here, right? Hello world, this is my first program and we just use two uppercase method. We are not going to cover each and every method, at least the basics, some basics method to lowercase and just refresh it. So here you can see, right, hello world, this is, and how do we mention like this, every word's first character is capital here in the string, but here we can see, right, it's printing whole statement in the lowercase. Next. Substring. Let's try with substring. Console.log. I'll deploy this. What I'm doing here is greetings. I'm just taking substrings from these greetings and printing here, and let's refresh it and see the output, how it's coming. So you guys can see the substring is getting printed like hello, and what we did is the code greetings.substring 0 to 5. This 0 is nothing but the starting index and it's the ending index. So between this, it will pick up, it will, take that string, take those many characters and store here. And we can simply print it by using this console log. Now, next one. Let's say I want to split this string, getting the split with this space, right? Dot length. Greetings dot split dot length, which will gives us length of greetings after splitting by spaces. So we can simply compare with this statement like console statement line number 53 and 58. Let me push it and we'll see how it's coming. You guys can see. It's printing 7. So what it's doing is, so once you use the split function, right, it's written the list of arrays. So that's why it's just giving the length of the array of string. If you can see here, right, if you hold your cursor here, it's showing the array of string dot length. So that's why it's returning 7, because we are splitting the string with this space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's why it's returning 7. Okay. Next. So how do we concatenate string? I'm just taking 2 different things, constant. What I did is I have taken this simple string Nilesh, and I'm just printing this console. But instead of comma, I'm using plus here, right? See, it's concatenating hello Nilesh. Or if we have different variables, right? Like I want to just concatenate greetings. How do you do that? I'll simply do it similar to text system.debug, right? So similarly, we can do same thing here. So if you go up, you'll see hello Nilesh, hello world. This is my first program. So this is how we can concatenate two strings. Next thing, arrays. Okay, let's see at least the declaration of array, and we'll see. Just commenting this. So if we want to have a list of elements, right? Any type of elements. I'm taking integer for now. So that's why this is the syntax. This is how we can like declare empid is equal to EMP numbers. What will happen if we don't declare this? What will be the value in this console log for this state, for this EMP number? Let's print it and let's see. I'm just deploying it. And this is my array, which is holding this integer elements comma separated in this EMP IDs. And let me refresh this. So if you go up and you guys can see this statement, we'll be getting undefined, right? So value for this EMP number is not defined, right? We have declared the variable, but we haven't initialized it. That's why it's printing that undefined. And if you look at EMP IDs, right, it's showing comma separated like this. If you just expand this to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we'll see. We'll see rest of the things in